Hi, my name is Cami, and today I'm going to introduce you to Ayurveda. I'm going to start with the foundation so that you have some understanding of what Ayurveda is and why I fell in love with it. Ayurveda was born in India about 5,000 years ago. It is the oldest continuously practiced healthcare system in the world. It is born with the understanding that nature's rhythms and laws are built by the five elements: air, ether, water, fire, and earth. We are each made up of these energies in a different proportion, which makes up our constitution or dosha. And each of us is unique. So we have a different balance of that also. I'll get to that in a little bit. It is a system of medicine that understands our deepest connection with the universe and the influence of these energies. We are the microcosm of the macrocosm. So we're one part of a much bigger picture, but that bigger picture has a great influence on how we feel, how our illnesses are, and what our imbalances are. The goal of Ayurveda is to teach each person how to obtain optimal health or wellness, how to have a deeper understanding and connection to themselves and their relationship with the world around them and nature. The first goal of Ayurveda is to prevent disease. So, to notice when the subtle changes start to happen and to make changes in order to adapt. The second is to understand each person's individual makeup so that when disease, illness, or imbalance happens, that we are able to say, let's change these practices, let's do this routine, let's change these foods. So that makes a difference in how we're going to work with our clients. And then how the outer world influences and affects us. So, if there's some sort of disease going rampant, or if there is a cold or a flu, that we can look at the person's constitution and give them the right practices to build immunity, not necessarily prevent the illness or it's not a cure, but the idea is to be able to create a strong individual so that they can fight it off or they can find balance within the stress of the event. This is a system based on natural healing, so building the strength of our body, mind, and spirit. All right, let's go into each constitution a little bit. So, what is your constitution? There are some great dosha tests online. I'm a big fan of Banyan Botanical. They're a great company. They have really great products and they have a really great dosha quiz. So, I highly recommend taking that and have somebody who knows you really well take it with you because this can help so that you are more honest. Not necessarily that you would lie, but sometimes what happens is the way that we perceive ourselves is a little different than what and who we actually are. So we'll start with the five elements: air, ether, fire, water, and earth. These five elements make up the doshas or constitutions. These are organizing principles in nature and the primary energies in our own bodies. All right, so we'll start with vata. Vata is ether and air. It means that which moves things. The qualities are dry, light, cold, rough, subtle, mobile, and erratic. The sites in our body are colon, thighs, hips, ears, bones, organs of touch, and then the colon is the main organ. Because Ayurveda focuses a lot on the digestive system, we often use the digestive organs of the digestive system as major contributors in imbalance, and it tells us a lot about what's going on in our bodies. The next one is pitta. Pitta is fire and water. It is that which digests things. It is oily, sharp, penetrating, hot, light, and then has a certain odor. So the person will, the food will, even the air quality can have a certain odor during that time of year. The sites of the body are the small intestine, the stomach, the sweat glands, subcutaneous glands, blood, lymph, organs of vision, and the small intestine is the main organ because that's where digestion happens. The next constitution is kapha. Kapha is earth and water. The qualities are cold, wet, heavy, dull, sticky, soft, firm, and solid. Kapha is that which holds things together. The sites in our body are chest, throat, head, the sides of our body, so our love handles, pancreas, lungs, lymph, fat, nose, head. And the stomach is the main organ of kapha. So what we want to do is work on what they really mean. So vata means the destruction of cells. Pitta means the maintenance, and kapha means the rebirth or creation of. And this doesn't necessarily mean a bad thing. It just is what the process is. So every cell is going to go through its phase of growth, its maintenance stage, and then its destruction stage. And this plays a part in all aspects of our psychological well being. So, our emotions, our understanding, and then our love. Now, we'll continue into a little bit of information about what the diets mean. So, pacifying diets mean that there are certain constitutions that should be eating certain kinds of foods at certain times of the year. That being said, the governing law is nature first. So if you are a fairly healthy person, meaning you don't have any imbalances, you feel really good, no digestive issues, no skin issues, nothing like that, then what we would look at is seasonal type eating. So you'd eat according to the constitution of the season, and then you would look into your own. But if you had extreme imbalances, we would look at that first. All right, so we'll start with the Vata pacifying diet, which is the winter diet. So we eat this diet in the winter time. So we want to favor foods that are warm, heavy, and oily. So in Ayurveda, we talk about the tastes. The tastes are sweet, sour, salty, astringent, pungent, and bitter. So instead of looking at the nutrient value of food, we look at the tastes and qualities that the food provides, which is a little bit different aspect. And if you get all the qualities in the right amount of balance in the right time of year, then it can contribute to your health. So going back to Vata, favor foods that are warm, heavy, and oily. The taste would be sweet, sour, salty, and you want to minimize foods that are cold, dry, and light. And the tastes that you want to avoid are spicy, which would be pungent, bitter, and astringent. All right, so we'll go to Pitta. Pitta is the summer diet. So in the summertime, you want to avoid and eat certain foods because it helps to balance us. The nice thing about living in the Midwest or in the northern climate is that we do really have true seasons. So Ayurveda works pretty well. So the Pitta flavors, the summer diet, would be foods that are cooling in nature. So that doesn't mean cold in temperature. It means cooling in nature. So when I say cooling in nature, I would talk about like cucumbers and watermelon, which are very common in the summertime as foods out of our gardens. So we don't focus on eating cold food. In fact, Ayurveda kind of says no cold food at all, which is something I'll talk about later in one of the nutrition classes. So cooling in nature and have the tastes that are sweet, bitter, and astringent. We want to minimize foods that are sour, salty, and spicy or pungent. We also want to avoid foods that are acidic, like coffee, tomato sauce, especially non-heirloom tomatoes. Heirloom tomatoes tend to be much lower in acid. Alcohol, fried food, and processed food, which pittas are often attracted to, especially coffee and tomatoes. So then we'll go into the kapha diet. So the kapha pacifying diet, which is the spring diet. Favor foods that are light, dry, warm. Tastes that are bitter, astringent, and pungent. And you want to minimize foods that are heavy, oily, sweet. And tastes that are sweet, sour, and salty. All right. So next part that we'll talk about is things that you can do to balance your constitution. So little practices that you can do once you know your constitution that you can do to help balance, especially if you just have little stuff going on, which would be some of the imbalances for each dosha or each constitution would be vata, would be dryness, gas, constipation, cracking in joints, insomnia, bloating, fear, anxiety, and nervousness. So those would be some of the imbalances that are common in Vata. Pitta, some of the imbalances that are common are heat in the body, hot inflammation, skin problems, eye problems, heartburn, and then anger and frustration. So those would be for Pitta constitution. And then a Kapha constitution is mucus buildup, weight gain, lethargy, slow digestion or sluggish. It'd be more of a sluggish digestion, and then nausea and depression. So that would be Kapha constitution. So now we'll go into the practices that help to bring some sort of balance. So we'll start with Vata. Vata, you're going to follow a Vata pacifying diet. So that winter diet that we talked about just a little bit ago. You want to massage yourself with oil, especially sesame oil or almond oil. There's other great oils out there too. Maharayan oil is a really good oil for all three doshas or all three constitutions. So that's a really good oil that has a nice scent to it. Sesame oil, it doesn't tend to be the best smell for most of us. And then following a dinacharya or daily routine. This is what we want to keep very, very consistent and regular in vatas because they tend to be gravitated toward imbalance when they don't have a consistent schedule. So consistency in their schedule is really important with regular meal times, regular exercise, meditation, rest, and sleep. We want to make sure it's very consistent. The more consistent, the more balanced a vata will feel. Remember, they're made of the air and ether qualities, so they're very light in nature. They don't have a lot of weight to their constitution, and their constitution is defined by that which moves things. So there's going to be a lot of movement involved, and creating more stability and consistency is going to create more balance. Another thing they want to do is make sure that vatas avoid constant schedules or stimulants or stimulation. So a lot of TV time creates a lot of imbalance, and it can go completely in the opposite direction. It can create agitation and anxiousness, or it can create depression and lethargy, which is more of a kapha thing, but sometimes it swings completely in the opposite direction. We want to avoid conditions that are cold and dry. If you live in a climate that is cold and dry, then making sure that you cover your neck, that you put a hat on top of your head, and that you're warm. And a lot of times vatas don't even mind the winter so much. It's more so the wind and the strong elements that create a little bit more imbalance. And then you want to avoid too much travel and too much sensory stimulation. So that's vata. Next would be pitta. So remember, pittas have heat and inflammation as the issue. The diet would be, remember, the summer one. So the summer diet is cooling in nature. And they want to avoid heat and keep cool. Regular exercise that isn't too intense or competitive. Remember, pitta is that which digests things. So they have a strong digestive system, but with that digestive fire, we call it Agni, that heat creates more heat in their body. So in the summertime, they're just going to have more heat. And if they eat spicy food, then they're just going to have more heat, which is going to cause some of the imbalances, which would be aggravation, it would be anger and frustration, and then heat and inflammation in the body. So going back to the pacifying diet, keeping cool, regular exercise that isn't too intense or competitive because it creates more of that fiery nature, avoiding stimulants and spicy foods and acidic foods. So staying away from the spice, especially in the summertime, and especially if you're out of balance as a pitta. A little bit goes a long way. Meditation. Meditation tends to be very cooling for pittas. It can be guided meditation or it can be just sitting still. There are pranayama techniques or breathing techniques that are very cooling for pitta. Going for walks in nature. Nature is effective for all three constitutions for very different reasons. Vata would be more grounding. Pitta, it's so that they detach away from work. And then for kapha, it's more stabilizing, and then they create movement by walking and hiking in nature. And then working on self-reflection. So often pittas can focus on work, which would be more external. And they need to focus on self-reflection and self-care so that they're feeding that fire that keeps on burning and keeps on burning. A daily routine is very important, and the daily routine has to have some sort of self-care in it. Um, and then do not overschedule or push beyond limits. And this is because pittas tend to be workaholics, not because they necessarily need the money, but because they love to work. So they're going to be drawn toward their work, and often they love what they do.